Okay, let's unpack this one.
Yeah.
We're diving deep today into something that, well, I think it touches a nerve for almost everyone, really.
Hmm.
Doesn't matter if you're a seasoned English speaker or, navigating it as a second language, talking on the phone.
Right. That phone anxiety, it's a real thing.
Exactly. There's this unique kind of pressure, isn't there, when you lose those visual cues,
You do. All of them.
the facial expressions, the body language, all that stuff that helps you, you know, get the meaning in person.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, phone calls just strip away so much of our normal communicator toolkit, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
You're relying purely on what you hear. And let's be honest, even in your native language,
Yeah, totally. Happens all the time.
a bad connection, someone talking way too fast, maybe an accent you're not used to,
Mm.
it can make phone calls tricky.
Right.
Then you add that layer of speaking English on top.
Right.
That challenge definitely multiplies.
It really does. It's that, that moment of uncertainty, the phone rings, or maybe you have to make a call.
Hmm. Will I understand them?
Will they understand me? How do I even, start this conversation the right way?
Yeah.
And that's precisely what this deep dive is designed to tackle.
Exactly. So drawing from the source material we've got here, our mission, really, is to equip you with the precise language,
The actual words.
the specific phrases, the structures you need to navigate all sorts of phone situations with, well, hopefully greater ease.
Yeah.
We're going to move kind of step by step through the whole anatomy of an English phone call,
Mm-hmm.
from those really critical opening lines
Mm.
all the way to, asking for clarification when things get a bit fuzzy.
Yes, and this isn't about abstract theory, is it? The sources we have lay out really concrete examples
Very practical.
for starting calls formally, casually, answering the phone, asking for specific people,
Manually holds, transfers.
leaving messages, and crucially, managing those moments when you just don't understand.
Right.
By looking at these specific techniques, the idea is you'll build a practical toolkit.
And this knowledge, it's immediately applicable to your life. That's the key.
Definitely.
Whether you need to call a business, maybe inquire about a service, schedule an appointment,
Check on an order.
or just catch up with a friend, right? These skills we're exploring today, they're the building blocks for actually having successful phone conversations in English.
Okay, so let's get past that anxiety then and into the practical steps.
Let's do it.
We're going to start right at the very beginning because, well, those first few words you exchange, they can set the entire tone for the call, can't they?
They really can. The opening of a phone call isn't just, saying hello. It's a crucial moment. It establishes the context. It manages expectations.
Yeah.
A clear, confident opening, it immediately signals professionalism if it's a formal call, or maybe warmth if it's casual. And that influences how the rest of the chat unfolds.
And the source material really seems to emphasize this point. It breaks down openings based on who you're actually calling.
Which makes sense.
So let's dive into the more structured side first, calling a business or in a professional setting.
Okay, so in these formal contexts, politeness is key, clarity is key, and efficiency. You really need those three.
Okay.
You need to identify yourself clearly, state why you're calling pretty quickly, so the person answering knows, how to help you or where to send your call.
Makes sense.
Mhm.
The sources give us some foundational examples here. The first one's a classic, really standard. Hello, this is Michael Johnson. May I speak with Sarah Miller?
Right. Let's dissect that a bit, why it works so well formally.
Okay.
You start with hello, universal standard formal greeting, right? On the phone.
Yep.
Immediately after, this is your name. Now, in a professional context, identifying yourself straight away like that, it's paramount.
Why is that so important, do you think?
Well, the person answering needs to know who they're talking to. It establishes your legitimacy, it gives context. Imagine answering a business line and someone just blurts out, "Can I speak to Sarah?"
Yeah, a bit jarring.
Right. You've got no idea who they are, why they're calling. It just creates friction right from the start. Identifying yourself avoids all that.
Okay, so it's about being informative up front. Makes sense. And then the request part. May I speak with person's name, please?
Yes. That phrase, may I, it's inherently polite, very formal, much more so than saying, can I, in this situation.
Right.
And adding please at the end just, doubles down on that politeness.
Just good manners.
Exactly. And the structure, way I speak with, it's the standard, unambiguous way to ask to be connected to a specific person in a company. No doubt about your immediate goal.
It's very clear. Direct purpose, but still courteous.
Precisely. Now, another example the source gives shows how you can add even more context. This is useful when, say, you're calling from one company to another.
Okay.
Good morning. This is Olivia Carter from Greenfield Bank. I'm calling regarding your account.
Okay, so starting with a time-specific greeting, good morning, that's standard professional stuff, right?
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on the time. It just helps orient the start of the conversation, especially in a business day context.
And then identifying yourself includes adding the company name from Greenfield Bank. That seems vital in many cases.
Oh, absolutely vital. The person answering instantly knows not just who you are, but the organization you represent. Think about business-to-business calls or calling about any kind of official matter. That context is crucial.
Right. And then they immediately state the reason, I'm calling regarding your account.
Yes. Using phrases like, I'm calling regarding Ela, I'm calling about. Ela, I'm calling to inquire about.
It's incredibly efficient.
Gets right to the point.
It tells the person answering the topic of your call straight away, so they can quickly figure out, am I the right person? Or, okay, I need to transfer them to accounts.
Saves time.
Definitely. In a busy office, that efficiency isn't just, nice to have, it's often expected. Minimizes wasted time for everyone. It really does streamline that initial bit. Okay, there's a third example here that uses a slightly less formal greeting, but still seems professional.
Ah, yes.
Hi, this is David Thompson. I'm calling to schedule an appointment with Dr. Williams.
Right. So while hello is always like the safest bet for maximum formality, hi is becoming really common. And it's perfectly acceptable in many professional settings these days, especially maybe internally or if the company culture is just a bit less rigid.
Okay.
But notice the core structure is the same. Identify yourself, then state your purpose clearly.
And the purpose here is super specific. I'm calling to schedule an appointment.
Yes. And being specific about the action you want to take, scheduling, inquiring, ordering, asking, that's immensely helpful for the person on the other end.
How so?
Well, they know exactly how to categorize your call, how to direct it. If you just said, I'm calling about Dr. Williams, they might think, okay, about what? A bill, a question, a complaint.
Right, too vague.
Saying, to schedule an appointment makes the needed action crystal clear. They know, okay, this needs to go to the appointments desk or the receptionist who handles scheduling.
Got it. So these examples really hammer home that in formal calls, the opening is all about efficient self-ID and clear purpose.
It's not just politeness for politeness' sake.
Yeah.
It's about providing essential info quickly so the call can actually proceed smoothly.
Okay. But what happens if you don't actually know the specific person's name you need? That's got to be a common situation, right? Especially calling big companies.
Oh, very common. Yeah, the sources address this. You might know you need, say, billing or tech support or sales.
But not Bob from sales.
Exactly. You don't have a specific contact name. So the guidance is to use the position or the department name as an alternative.
Okay, like this example. Hello, this is Emma Scott. May I speak with someone in the customer service department?
Perfect. See, you keep the formal greeting, hello. You identify yourself, this is Emma Scott. You still use the polite, may I speak with, but instead of a name, you target the functional area. Someone in the customer service department.
Right.
It's perfectly clear, directs the call to the right group of people who can likely help you. Super efficient for navigating larger organizations when you lack that direct contact.
Makes sense. And there's another similar one. Hi, this is Daniel Parker. I'd like to speak with the hiring manager about a job opening.
This one uses, I'd like to speak with. That's another polite, standard alternative to, may I speak with? Same function.
Okay.
Again, you identify yourself. You state who you want by their role, the hiring manager. And crucially, you add the context at a job opening.
Why is adding that context so important here?
Well, it helps the person answering confirm that the hiring manager is actually the right contact for this specific thing. Maybe they have different managers for different roles, or maybe, for instance, all applications have to go through an online portal first.
Ah, I see.
Providing that about clause makes the request much more targeted. It helps them route you correctly or give you the right information straight away.
So whether you've got a name, a position, or just a department, the basic structure holds. Identify yourself, clearly state who or what you need, and add context if it helps.
That's the pattern. And doing that up front prevents the person answering from having to immediately ask, who's calling, or what's this about, which can feel a bit abrupt.
Okay, clear openings down. But even with the best opening, the person you want might just not be there.
Happens all the time. Meetings, out of office, on another call.
Right, so the sources wisely include the standard responses you're likely to hear in that situation.
Yeah, recognizing these phrases is half the battle. It helps you understand what's going on and prepares you for what to do next.
The examples given are, I'm sorry, Sarah's in a meeting right now. Would you like to leave a message?
Hmm.
And unfortunately, Dr. Williams is out of the office today. Can I take a message for you?
Okay, notice both start with a polite softening phrase. I'm sorry, or unfortunately. That's standard courtesy when you can't fulfill the request immediately.
Right.
Then they give a brief professional reason why the person isn't available in a meeting out of the office. Doesn't need to be overly detailed.
Just enough context.
Exactly. And finally, they offer the standard alternative. Taking a message, would you like to leave a message, and can I take a message for you? Both are common, polite ways to offer that service.
So when you hear that, you know the ball's back in your court. Leave a message or not.
Precisely. Understanding those phrases means you won't be caught off guard. You'll know, okay, plan A didn't work, time for plan B, leave a message or ask when to call back.
And this brings up a really crucial point from the source material, doesn't it? When making a formal call,
Yes,
you should always be prepared for this possibility. Be ready to leave a clear message if needed.
absolutely. Don't get flustered if they're not there.
Yeah.
Having your message points ready, who you are, your number, why you called, is part of a successful formal call strategy.
Okay, so that covers the formal side pretty thoroughly. Now, let's make a sharp turn, just like the source material does.
Right. To the other end of the spectrum.
To the completely different world of starting a casual call, like with a friend.
Yeah, this is where all that structure we just talked about kind of melts away.
Big contrast, the sources say. Tone, language, expectations, all different.
Totally different. The language becomes much more relaxed, personal, natural. You're talking to someone you know well, right? So that need for formal ID and structured purpose statements, gone.
Yeah.
The focus shifts much more to just connection and warmth.
And the examples capture this perfectly, like, hey, Jake, what's up?
Classic.
Or, hi, Emily, do you have a minute? Also, hey, Alex, how's it going? And hi, Sophie, are you free to talk now?
Okay, look at the greetings first.
Right.
Hey, super common, super informal. It basically replaces hello or good morning entirely in casual chat.
Right. Hi is also standard casual.
Yeah. And you usually just jump straight in. You don't normally say, this is your name, unless maybe you're calling from a number they don't recognize or something.
Because they know your voice, presumably.
Exactly. And then phrases like, what's up, or how's it going, they're everywhere in informal English.
What exactly do they mean?
They're basically just asking, how are you? Or what are you doing right now? They serve as both a greeting and a conversation opener. And you don't usually need a detailed answer. Not much you is a perfectly fine reply.
Okay. And what about, do you have a minute, or are you free to talk now?
Those are simple, polite ways to just quickly check if the person is actually available to chat before you launch into whatever you wanted to talk about.
Like, are they busy?
Yeah. I mean, you can just start talking, especially with close friends, but it's generally seen as considerate, even casually, to do a quick check. Shows respect for their time.
Makes sense. So the source points out the key differences clearly. First names only, casual greetings like, hey, and the prevalence of contractions, right? Like what's for what is, how's for how is, which maybe aren't always obvious in written examples, but they're definitely how people speak casually.
Oh, absolutely. Contractions are everywhere in spoken casual English. And the overall tone is just friendly, warm, much less rigid than a formal call.
Right. And what if your friend doesn't pick up? The source mentions leaving a voicemail or a text.
Yeah, and the example for a casual message really highlights the difference again.
Hey, Jake, it's Peter. Give me a call back when you're free.
Wow, yeah, super brief and direct.
Totally. It's your first name is usually enough identification for a friend. And give me a call back when you're free, or call me back when you get a chance. Clear. No fuss instruction.
No need for, may I request that you return my call at your earliest convenience here?
Definitely not. So, yeah, comparing those formal and casual openings side by side really shows how much context and your relationship with the person shape the language you choose on the phone.
Same goal, starting a call, but totally different ways of doing it.
Okay, so we've covered initiating calls, both formal and casual. But what about being on the receiving end, answering the phone?
Ah, yes, the other side of the coin.
The source material covers this too. And unsurprisingly, it says it also depends heavily on context. Like, who do you think might be calling?
Precisely. Your answering phrase sets the tone for the caller, just like your opening does when you're making the call. If you're answering a dedicated business line, it's going to be different from picking up your personal mobile expecting a friend.
Right. So for formal answering, maybe in an office or answering for your own business, the source gives a pretty comprehensive structure.
Yeah, a really good one.
Hello, thank you for calling Anderson and Co. This is Daniel speaking. How can I help you?
Okay, let's break that down. That's kind of the gold standard for professional answering.
Mm-hmm.
Start with, hello, standard greeting. Then, a nice touch. Acknowledging their action. Thank you for calling company name. That company name part. Absolutely essential. Caller needs to know they've reached the right place.
Conflict.
Exactly. Then you identify yourself. This is Daniel speaking.
Right.
Or maybe just, this is Daniel. That personalization is helpful, lets the caller know who they're talking to.
And then you wrap it up with a clear offer of assistance. How can I help you?
Right. That whole sequence greeting, thanks, company ID, self-ID, offer help. It's designed for maximum clarity and professionalism right from the get-go.
Yeah, the caller knows everything they need to know immediately. Who they've reached, where, who they're talking to, and that you're ready to help. Super efficient.
Very. Another formal example given is, good afternoon, this is Jennifer from Elite Marketing. How may I assist you today?
Similar structure, time-specific greeting, good afternoon.
Identifies self and company clearly and uses how may I assist you today, which is just a slightly more formal version of how can I help you? Both do the same job, politely offering help.
You can really see how these professional answers are structured not just to sound polite, but to give the caller all the key info they need fast. Manages their expectations right away.
Exactly. Now, in complete contrast, answering a casual call from a friend or family member,
Much more relaxed.
yeah, much more relaxed, warm. It reflects that personal relationship.
The casual examples are really simple and direct, like, hey, it's Alex,
Sure.
or hello, what's up, or hi, Sophie, how's your day going?
Right. You might just identify yourself, especially if maybe they won't recognize the number immediately. Hey, it's Alex. Or this is Alex's comment.
Or just hello, sometime.
Or just hello, yeah. Or you can combine a greeting with an immediate casual question like, hello, what's up? Or hi, Sophie, how's your day going?
No need to say Anderson and Co. or how may I assist you, unless maybe it's your work phone and friends call it too.
Exactly. Generally, there's no need for the company name or the formal offer of assistance. The key difference is the structure and language are much less rigid. It's focused on conveying warmth and availability for a personal chat, not a formal transaction.
Okay. Now, the sources kind of subtly hint at the importance of practice throughout all these sections.
Oh, yeah, that's crucial.
It's worth really emphasizing that, isn't it? Just reading or hearing these phrases,
Yeah.
it's not enough.
Not at all. You need to internalize them so they actually come out smoothly when you need them under pressure.
Right. So one practical way to do this, the source suggests, is to mentally, or even better, actually practice saying that formal business answering phrase. Like imagine the phone ringing at work and you pick up and say, hello, this is Michael from Greenfield Bank. How can I help you?
Yes. The act of actually saying it aloud helps solidify the structure. It builds muscle memory.
Muscle memory for speaking.
Exactly. You practice the pronunciation, the intonation, the rhythm. It makes you feel much more comfortable and therefore much more confident when you have to use it for real.
Right. It stops being something you just recognize and becomes something you can actually produce without thinking too hard.
That's the goal. Effortless production.
Okay. So we've got the beginning of the call covered. Initiating, receiving, formal, casual. Now let's move into the core of the conversation itself.
Right. The back and forth.
The common phrases you'll need during the call to handle typical interactions.
Yeah. Once you're connected and the initial purpose is maybe stated, calls often follow certain predictable patterns. And the sources give us the essential language for these common scenarios.
One really frequent one is needing to ask for a specific person again. Maybe you first got a receptionist or an automated menu. Or maybe you're talking to someone and realize, oops, I need your colleague instead.
Right. So the sources offer variations for this, suitable for use mid-call. They're pretty similar to the opening requests, actually, but worth looking at again here.
Okay. Like, may I speak with Jessica Adams, please? Or, is Mark Roberts available?
And also, could I speak to someone in the billing department?
So again, we see those polite variations, may I speak with, could I speak to, and the slightly more direct but still polite, is name available?
Yeah. The key, again, is just clearly stating who you need, whether it's a name or that useful fallback. Someone in the department, if you don't have a name but know the area, gets you routed correctly.
And understanding those not available responses we talked about earlier is just as important here too, right?
Absolutely. Mid-call, you might still hear, "I'm sorry, Jessica is not available right now. Would you like to leave a message?" Or, "Mark is out of the office at the moment. Can I take a message?"
Right.
These signal the person can't take your call right now, and they offer the message option. Being familiar with these means you know how to respond next.
Like leave a message or maybe ask when they'll be back or even ask if someone else can help instead.
Exactly. Gives you options.
Okay, that leads smoothly into another really common thing on calls, being put on hold or getting your call transferred.
Oh, yeah. Especially in business calls. The sources cover the language for these necessary steps.
Mm-hmm.
There are phrases you might hear as the caller
Mm-hmm.
and phrases you might use if you're the one handling the call.
Okay, so if you're answering and need the caller to wait, what are the standard phrases?
The most basic polite instruction is just, "Please hold for a moment." Very simple, very standard. A slightly more informative version is, "Can I put you on hold for a moment while I check that for you?"
Ah, adding the why.
Yes. Adding that reason while I check that for you or while I transfer you or while I just get that information, it's really helpful.
Why?
It gives the caller a reason for the wait. It makes a hold feel purposeful, like you're actively doing something for them, rather than just leaving them hanging in silence or with, that awful hold music.
Right, shows you're taking action.
Exactly.
Okay, then there's the language for actually transferring a call. Like, let me transfer you to the sales department.
Yep. Very straightforward statement of what you're about to do.
Or, I'll connect you with Lisa in customer service.
Right. Using connect you with is just a common synonym for transfer you to. And notice in professional calls, specifying the department, sales, customer service, and, if possible, the person's name, Lisa, is really helpful for the caller.
Lets them know where they're going.
Yeah. Manages their expectations, saves them maybe having to explain their whole situation again if they get connected to the right person straight away.
Okay. And what if you're the one who got put on hold? What might you hear when the person comes back?
Ah, good question. The sources give examples of phrases used to sort of acknowledge your wait time, like, "Thank you for holding. I appreciate your patience."
Nice and polite.
Yeah, it's a polite way to recognize you've been waiting and thank you for being patient. It's a small courtesy, but it really helps maintain a positive interaction.
And another common one.
"Sorry for the wait. How can I assist you?" This one combines a quick apology for the delay with an immediate re-engagement. It brings the conversation right back to your needs after that pause.
So these phrases kind of smooth out the transition after you've been waiting.
Exactly. Understanding both the phrases you use to put someone on hold or transfer and the phrases you'll hear when you are put on hold just helps you navigate those inevitable waiting points in calls more smoothly.
Okay. So, starting, asking for people, handling holds and transfers. Check. What about when the person you need isn't available and you've been offered the chance to leave a message?
Right. Now the focus shifts to what you need to say.
Leaving a clear message seems like a really crucial skill, especially formally.
Oh, it is. You need to provide enough information so the person who gets the message understands who called, why you called, and crucially, how they can get back to you. The sources give us some key phrases for this.
The most direct phrase to actually initiate the message taking seems to be, "Could you take a message for John?"
Yes. That's a clear question. You're asking the person you're speaking to, the intermediary, to specifically write down or relay a message that's intended for John, clearly identifies the recipient.
Okay. And what if you just need them to know you called, but don't need to leave a big detailed
Yeah,
message?
there's a simpler request for that. Can you tell Emma that I called? This is less about dictating detailed info and more about just logging the fact that you tried to reach them. This might be enough if, say, Emma is expecting your call or already has your number saved. It's less work for the person taking the message too.
Okay. And a more detailed option that gives the recipient some context.
Yeah, like, "Please let Daniel know I'll call back later."
Ah, okay. So you're specifying the core info, "I called," but also adding important context about your next action, "I'll call back later."
Exactly. That's helpful because it tells Daniel he doesn't necessarily need to scramble to call you back immediately since you're planning to try again yourself. It manages his expectations.
Right. So when you actually leave the message after using one of these opening phrases, what needs to go in the message?
Good point. After you say, for instance, "Could you take a message for John?" Next, you then need to provide the actual content. A good message usually includes, let's see, 4 key things.
Okay.
1, your name, stated clearly.
Yeah.
2, your phone number, spoken slowly and clearly. Maybe even repeat it.
Mm-hmm.
3, the reason for your call, just briefly, give some context. And 4, maybe when would be a good time for them to call you back, or perhaps when you might try calling them again.
Okay, so let's build on that first phrase. Could sound like, could you take a message for John? Please tell him Michael Johnson called from Greenfield Bank regarding his account. My number is 555-123-4567. That's 555-123-4567. He can reach me best before noon tomorrow.
That's perfect. A complete, clear, formal message. Hits all the essential points: who, from where, why, contact number repeated, and availability.
What are common mistakes people make when leaving messages?
Oh, speaking too quickly is a big one. Especially the phone number. It's easy to rush it, but the person writing it down needs time. Practice saying your name and number slowly and clearly.
Good tip. Anything else?
Another one is not stating why you called. Leaving a message that just says, John, Michael called, call me back, is way less helpful than one that gives context like regarding your account or about the meeting proposal.
Right. Gives them a reason to prioritize calling you back, maybe.
Exactly. So these phrases for initiating the message provide the framework, then you fill in those crucial details clearly and concisely. Mastering this means your call isn't wasted, even if you don't connect directly.
Okay. So navigating these standard mid-call interactions, asking for someone, handling holds, leaving messages, having the right phrases, means even if the conversation isn't perfectly linear, you've got the linguistic tools to manage the flow.
That's the idea. You can handle the common twists and turns.
Right. We've built the call from the ground up through the openings, the standard exchanges. But, even with the best preparation, calls, especially in a language you're still learning, they can hit bumps.
Oh, absolutely. Misunderstandings happen.
Which brings us to the next really critical section in the sources, how to ask for clarification.
Yes. This is arguably one of the most empowering skills you can develop for phone calls. It's totally normal to miss something. Maybe they spoke too fast, had an accent you're not used to, maybe there was background noise, or you just flat out didn't understand a word or concept.
And just trying to nod along or guess? That's risky.
It's a recipe for misunderstanding. Knowing how to politely and effectively ask for clarification is absolutely essential. Stops problems before they start.
So the sources provide key phrases, and they tailor them to why you didn't understand. That's smart.
Yeah.
First, let's look at when you simply didn't hear something properly. The audio was the issue.
Right. Happens all the time. A word gets mumbled, the connection glitches for a second, someone coughs.
So the most common direct phrase for this?
Probably. Sorry, could you repeat that?
Okay. Why, sorry.
Starting with sorry just softens the request a bit. It politely prefaces it, acknowledging maybe you missed it or there was an issue. And then, could you repeat that? Is the standard direct request to say the last bit again. Clear, universally understood.
Got it. There's another very common one, too, using an idiom.
Ah, yes. I didn't catch that. Could you say it again?
I didn't catch that. So that means I didn't hear or understand.
Exactly. It's a very common idiom. Maybe slightly less formal than saying, I didn't hear you clearly, but perfectly fine in almost any context, even formal ones usually.
Okay.
And then, could you say it again?
Yeah.
Functions identically to repeat that. It's just another common, polite way to ask for repetition. You can really use either pair, sorry, could you repeat? Or, I didn't catch that, could you say it again? Whichever feels more comfortable.
Maybe even mix and match like, sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you repeat what you just said?
Absolutely. That works perfectly well, too.
Okay, so those are great for when the audio was the problem. But what if you heard the words perfectly fine, but the meaning wasn't clear?
Right. Different challenge. You process the sound, but the information itself didn't quite click. Maybe unfamiliar vocabulary, a complex idea.
So what phrases do the sources suggest for that?
One key phrase is, could you clarify what you mean?
Clarify. That's the important word there.
Yes. Clarify specifically means to make something clearer or easier to understand. So when you ask, could you clarify what you mean? You're asking the other person to explain their previous statement, maybe in simpler terms, or give more detail or provide more context, so the meaning becomes transparent to you.
It targets the understanding, not just the hearing.
Precisely.
Okay, there's a slightly longer version, too.
Yeah. I'm not sure I understand. Can you explain it another way?
Starts very honestly, I'm not sure I understand. Is that okay to say?
Absolutely. It's
Okay.
perfectly acceptable, even encouraged. It's direct, it's honest, it shows you're engaged, but you genuinely need help. It's much better than pretending.
Right.
And then the second part, Can you explain it another way? Makes a specific request. You're asking them to rephrase, use different words, maybe try a different angle in their explanation because the first way didn't quite land for you. Really useful for complex topics or new info.
These seem like really powerful tools for navigating those moments when you feel a bit lost in the conversation. Lets you pause and get help.
They really are. They empower you. And finally, the sources tackle that specific technical challenge. A bad connection.
Ah, the worst. Static, cutting in and out.
Yeah, that frustrating situation where the audio itself is just breaking up.
So the phrases for this are useful because they kind of blame the technology.
Haha, yeah, basically. They identify the source of the problem as technical, not necessarily your listening skills. Like,
Yeah.
I think we have a bad connection. Can you say that again?
Right, saying, I think we have a bad connection
Yeah.
explicitly tells the other person why you need them to repeat. It's not you, it's the tech.
Exactly. It cues them that maybe they need to speak more slowly or clearly because there's interference. And you follow up with a request. Can you say that again?
And there's a very common specific phrase for that cutting in and out problem.
Yes. You're cutting out. Could you repeat that?
You're cutting out. That's the standard phrase for that.
That's the one. It's instantly recognized as meaning someone's voice is intermittently disappearing or breaking up on the call. Very specific to phone audio issues.
Wow.
So again, you state the problem clearly, you're cutting out, and then ask them to repeat what you missed because of it. Polite and practical.
Wow. Mastering these clarification phrases seems absolutely crucial. It lets you take control when communication starts to break down.
It really does. Instead of getting flustered, or worse, just guessing and potentially making a mistake, you have the actual language to fix the problem right there and then, and make sure you get the information you need accurately.
And just like with the opening phrases, the sources hint again that practice is key here too.
Always practice. They suggest, for instance, practicing what to say if someone is speaking way too fast.
Yeah, that happens a lot. A common stressful situation. So you're trying to keep up, someone's rattling off info. What do you practice saying?
The suggestion is something like, "Sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you say it again more slowly?"
Adding more slowly at the end.
Yes. That addition is a specific and really helpful instruction when speed is the main issue.
Yeah.
It gives the other person concrete guidance on how they need to adjust their delivery to help you understand.
That makes sense.
And practicing that phrase, and the others for clarification for not hearing, not understanding, bad connection, it just means that even if you feel a bit anxious in the moment, the right words are more likely to come out automatically and clearly.
Builds that confident reaction to a common problem.
Exactly. It's about having a plan.
Ultimately, the really powerful insight here seems to be that having these specific phrases ready transforms that anxiety about misunderstanding from a potential disaster into just a solvable problem. The source material basically gives you the repair kit for communication breakdowns.
That's a great way to put it. A repair kit. It shifts your mindset from just hoping you understood everything to knowing you have the tools to ensure you understand. Big difference in confidence.
Wow. Okay. We've really walked step by step through the whole life cycle of an English phone call here.
We have covered a lot of ground.
From making that strong start, formally and casually, to answering the phone right, depending on the context.
Handling the common interactions like asking for someone, dealing with holes and transfers, leaving clear, effective messages.
And spending good time on maybe the most critical survival skill, asking for clarification when you didn't hear or didn't understand.
Absolutely.
By pulling apart all those examples in the source material, we've really seen how each phrase has a specific job to do.
Yeah. It provides a concrete tool for navigating each step. It's about building up that repertoire of reliable responses you can pull out when needed.
And that's the goal, right? To move from feeling kind of daunted by the unknowns of a phone call.
Yeah, that feeling of, oh no, what if?
To feeling prepared because you actually have the language ready. That underlying stress about phone calls, it's real, but having these specific phrases, it just reduces it significantly.
Yeah.
Gives you a sense of control.
It really does. It gives you agency in the conversation.
And the source material wraps up with a really practical challenge, doesn't it? A way to take everything we've talked about today and actually integrate it into your own skills.
Yes, it outlines a clear 3-step process for practice.
Okay, what's step 1?
Step 1 is simply practice making a phone call using the phrases and instructions we discussed today. And crucially, that means actively speaking them, not just thinking about them in your head.
Right. Get the words out. Okay, step 2.
Step 2, Choose one of the specific scenarios mentioned in the source to focus your practice. They suggest things like calling a hotel to make a reservation,
Okay.
calling a restaurant to order food, or maybe calling a company to ask about a job opening.
Why practice a specific scenario like that?
Well, those scenarios are valuable because they provide a realistic context. They force you to combine several of the skills and phrases we covered.
I see. Like, you'd need an opening, state your purpose, maybe ask for clarification on details like times or prices.
Exactly. You have to put the different pieces together in a more natural conversation flow. Practicing one whole scenario helps you see how it all connects.
Okay. And step 3, this one might feel a bit awkward for some people.
Yeah, possibly. Step 3 is record yourself speaking the conversation, aiming to sound as natural and confident as you can.
Why is recording yourself so effective, even if it feels weird?
Because it's like getting a second pair of ears, objective ears. You can listen back and actually hear where you might be hesitating too much,
Mm-hmm.
where your pronunciation could be clearer, if your pace is maybe too fast or too slow, or if your intonation sounds a bit flat.
Right, things you might not notice while you're speaking.
Exactly. It helps you objectively identify specific areas where you can improve your fluency and ultimately your confidence. It turns that vague feeling of, I need to get better, into concrete points for practice.
That makes a lot of sense. The source also encourages some personal reflection too, right?
It does. Asking yourself things like, what's the hardest part of speaking on the phone in English for you personally?
Good question.
Is it understanding different accents? Is it
Mm.
finding the right vocabulary quickly under pressure? Is it maybe handling unexpected questions?
Uh-huh.
And also, which specific phrase from our deep dive today feels like it would be the most useful to you right now?
Why is identifying those personal points important?
Because it helps you focus your practice where you need it most, makes your study time more efficient.
Okay. And the material also looks ahead a bit.
Yeah, it mentions the logical next step in building English communication skills, which is learning how to sound more natural in English conversations overall, not just the specific phrases, but the general flow and rhythm.
So that's presented as a future topic, kind of building on this foundation of specific phone phrases.
Exactly, a logical progression.
So more to explore down the line, but for now, the focus is really on mastering these practical phone call tools.
Absolutely. And remember that key takeaway the source emphasizes.
Yeah?
Practice, practice, practice. That's the bridge to confidence. The more you actually use these phrases, the more comfortable and automatic they'll become. And that initial phone call anxiety will start to lessen.
So don't wait for some high-stakes, super important phone call to be your first time trying these out.
Please don't. Start today. Use the examples, try the challenge scenarios we discussed. Even just practicing in front of a mirror, or with a language partner if you have one, can make a huge difference.
Okay, great practical advice.
So maybe to leave you, the listener, with a final thought, building on everything we've covered.
Yeah.
Considering how much we normally rely on visual cues in communication, and how phone calls just completely strip those away, how does this deliberate act of mastering specific verbal tools, these phrases for identifying, requesting, clarifying, confirming, how does that change your perspective on how difficult phone calls actually are?
Does having the tools make the task seem less daunting?
Perhaps. And related to that, if this focused phrase-by-phrase approach is so effective for tackling the specific challenges of phone communication, what other areas of English communication that maybe feel challenging to you right now might also benefit from a similar approach, breaking them down and practicing the specific linguistic tools needed for that situation?